Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I am Mahmoud Jega. A flurry of some good news over the last 24 hours in the global fight against COVID-19. U.S. health regulators have authorized the first pill against COVID-19, the Pfizer drug called Paxlovid. It's faster, cheaper way to treat early COVID infections. Patients will be able to take the pill at home and to head off the worst effects of the virus. The long-awaited milestone comes as U.S. cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are all still rising. And the new variant Omicron appears to be milder, according to preliminary studies published in the UK and South Africa. But the concern remains that even if Omicron is milder, the sheer number of cases could overwhelm hospitals. To discuss this, I have on the line Dr. Akyala Ishaku, who is a molecular virologist and a public health epidemiologist, and he joins me now on the line. Doctor, you are welcome to the Arise interview.
Thank you for having me, Jega.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Now, this news that we received only yesterday, that the U.S. Drug Administration has authorized the use of this new pill for the treatment of COVID. How big a news is it, and how hopeful a sign is it after 2 years of battling this worldwide pandemic?
Thank you for having me. And I think the emergency authorization by FDA is a cheering news. It's a cheering news because the drug produced by Pfizer has shown to be very, very efficacious. It has also shown that it has reduced hospitalization among people that are of high risk by 89%, and it also reduces death by 89%. A clinical trial, phase 1 clinical trials was done on the drug, and it was discovered that among 2,200 participants that participated in the clinical trials, and they are at high risk of developing associated symptoms to COVID-19. It was discovered that from preliminary data that 89% of them are not being admitted in the hospital, and then also 89% decrease in death. So I think this is a cheering news, but it also requires that we need to do a lot of studies across other nations, because genetic makeups differs, temperature, climate differs. So we need to actually also carry out these clinical trials among Caucasians, among Blacks. It's a cheering news, and I think it is a welcome news for us scientists all over the world as we close down 2021.
But doctor, this pill, let me get this clear. You only take it when you are down with COVID. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was actually done on two classes of people. One, it was clinical trials was done on people that were down with COVID, and then they were being monitored for 3 days, and then they discovered that they never had associated symptoms of COVID. And another set of people were also given placebo, meaning that they did not take the drugs. And a different set also of clinical trials was done among people that were actually negative for COVID, took the drugs, and were exposed to people that were positive. And then they never developed the drugs. So actually, it's like in the coming days to come, will be unveiling, the scientists will be unveiling the potency of this drug, whether it is a preventive drug or a curative drug. But from the clinical trials that we have seen, it is actually a curative drug. So we need more sample size of people, more participants of people to be engaged in clinical trials for us to actually establish that it is a treatment drug and also a preventive drug.
So if it is a very good treatment drug, what does that say about vaccination? Should we now stop vaccination and wait when we come down with COVID, we just swallow this pill?
No, you know that COVID-19 is an emerging new disease. The pathophysiology, where scientists all over the world are trying to understand the disease in details. We are not going to stop vaccination. We are going to combine both the treatment and vaccination alongside and begin to see how the dynamics of the treatment regimen unfolds. So it's not going to be only for people that came down with COVID, but that we are going to combine it with both vaccination. And I think that those are the protocols for the treatment regimen that for, of course, Jega, you are also aware that there are people that took the vaccines and also came down with COVID. So the vaccines generally are to actually, activate our body immunity, either natural immunity or acquired immunity, and then be able to prevent us from subsequent getting the disease, and then also see how the disease progresses. So based on the protocol being approved by FDA, we are going to take these drugs for people that are positive and for people that are not positive concurrently with the vaccines.
Is it correct that some more drugs are coming along this line? Apart from this Pfizer, I said apart from this Pfizer drug that has just been approved for emergency use, are any more similar drugs coming for the treatment of COVID?
Yes, there are about 3 drugs already that have been submitted to WHO for the treatment of COVID, and then also through the FDA. This one has passed through a clinical trial that seems to be very positive in terms of people that are positive for COVID and in terms of their prognosis. So more drugs will come on board, and it is the earnest expectations of all scientists all over the world that we are going to get a drug for this disease, and then it's going to be a drug that will be used for all ages and also for all races. This is because a lot of drugs may work for the white, for the Caucasian. It might not duly work for the blacks. So we need to actually, recruit a lot of participants into these clinical trials for us to actually see the efficacy of these drugs.
Doctor, there was another what sounds also like cheering news that researchers in the UK and South Africa found out that the Omicron variant, which is the talk of the whole world now, may actually not be as potent or as infectious as Delta and the other variants of COVID. Is that something to be cheerful about?
Jega, is something to be cheerful about. Is something not to also be cheerful about. It is cheerful because UK and South Africa have actually established from their preliminary data that Omicron variant of SARS-CoV-2 or of COVID-19 does not increase hospitalization and also does not increase death. But Jega, where is the Nigerian data? Where is the sub-Saharan African data? Where is the African data? Those are the conversations that we need to have. Must we depend on data from South Africa? Must we depend on data from the United Kingdom? Don't we have scientists in Nigeria that can be able to study the pattern of disease presentation and the prognosis among people that are infected with these Omicron variants? Why is Nigeria not on the international global health landscape? Those are the questions we need to ask. So it's cheering that actually the disease is not severe within a population that was under study in South Africa and the United Kingdom. But where is the Nigerian data? Those are the national questions that we need to answer.
Interesting. But what prevents us from gathering this data? We have a whole presidential committee on COVID. We have a Center for Disease Control. We have Ministry of Health. What's so difficult about doing trials and having some data?
Very difficult question that you may ask, and then because those are the conversations that we need to have as a nation, because South Africa seems to be on the global landscape for public health emergency. We have a lot of scientists, high-profile scientists into research in Nigeria, but presumptuously, I believe that we have not gotten the enabling environment to be able to drive this process. And my prescription to the Presidential Task Force Committee and the NCDC is to actually look into this, into research. It's quite key. Jega, why do we have a third dose? Why must we have a booster dose? Is it because the booster dose was given in South Africa and UK and United States, and we felt like we needed a booster dose in Nigeria? Have we done studies in Nigeria to see that a lot of our populations require a booster dose? Or it is a copy and paste protocol and strategy that we are adopting? Those are questions that we need to ask. And then we need to also create an enabling environment and also support research, most especially in COVID-19 research, so that we can be able to be generating data. Botswana and South Africa pinned down the Omicron variant and told the world and announced to the world. But we could not be able to pin down that in Nigeria, despite the influx of inbound travelers that we had. It was in retrospect that we also discovered the Omicron variants. So it raises a lot of national questions, whether it is a nation that values research and knowledge in the 21st century, or it is a nation that abundance is not driven by research to inform policies. Those are the kind of narratives that we need to have a national discourse about. But in the coming days to come, I strongly believe that we need to actually look into this and begin to decentralize. I was actually looking at the figures of United States of America, and I just discovered that 50 of their states are, infected with the Omicron variant as a demographic spatial spread. Jega, how many states in Nigeria are infected with the Omicron? How many states have high prevalence of these Omicron variants? Does that not inform us that we have not done enough? So Nigerians need to know. That will also inform within this festive season whether people should travel or not. Those are the kind of questions that we need to ask.
Questions, Prof. They are very big questions that you have raised. I thank you very much for your deep insight into this matter, and I hope the authorities will move quickly to provide answers to the questions you have raised. Thank you very much, Dr. Ishaku.